Alright, today I want to go over overclocking the Raspberry Pi and actually testing the overclock. And I kind of got interested in this because I read something about there was a very small portion of Raspberry Pi 3s that could basically get an extreme overclock. And, you know, I was like, damn, well, let me try. I want to see if mine can do that. So I started tinkering around. I started off low with, maybe a frequency of 1300. Then I kept bumping it up, and it worked. I kept bumping it up I went up to 1400. It worked, and then finally I went to this setting here, 1500, and it worked. So I was like, wow. I guess I'm one of those 1% that actually got a Pi that can be, overclocked pretty good. But I was like, all right, so it's booting with this overclock. Is it stable? So I set out to find a way to stress test the Raspberry Pi 3, and so I found something to stress test it. And I'm still curious because mine runs good, and I'm still curious if I can go up even higher. But I haven't tried that yet, so today I'm just going to stick with this setting here. I found all these settings online somewhere, and so I saved them all, and they're all good. Like whoever set this up, they did a good job in setting everything up, and everything seems to work great. So, anyways. If you have a Raspberry Pi 3 and you want to get into overclocking it, I would start off with this one down here, right here. I would say almost every Raspberry Pi is going to run at this setting right here, and then keep going. If that works, try the next one. And if that works, try the next one. You'll know pretty much right away if it isn't going to work because your Raspberry Pi won't even boot. But so if it doesn't boot, then yeah, you got to step it back to the previous setting. But if it does boot, then you're going to want to stress test it. So this is how you're going to go about doing that. Let's see here. I found a good article right here. Good article on how to stress test your Raspberry Pi. I'll put the link in the description to this. And basically, you're just going to add a script to your Raspberry Pi 3. And so let's go ahead and do that. Let's see here. What am I doing? Alright. So open up Putty, and you're going to log in, username Pi, password Raspberry. And basically what you first want to do is you want to cd, you're going to go into the OPT folder. Alright, and then let's just see what I have in there. I don't think I have anything in there. Oh. Okay, so this is all that's in there. Alright, so we want to create the stability.sh file. So basically you're just going to copy that command up there, copy, right click, paste it in there, click enter, and you're going to have a blank file. So all you got to do is you scroll down, find the script. Here's the script. So you're just going to copy the whole script, right click, copy, and then you're just going to right click, paste it in there. And then to save, you're going to hit Control on your keyboard and X. And then you're going to answer yes by typing the letter Y. Hit, and then you're going to hit enter. So now that file is saved on your Pi. Alright, so next we're going to go up to here. And you can read all this stuff, but basically you have to run this command right here, which gives it permissions. So you're going to copy that, right click, enter, and finally you're going to copy that. This is going to run the script, right click, enter, and that's going to start the stability test. Now, this takes a long time. It's going to take probably hours. It's going to take hours. So, I mean, I've been coming back, you know, checking and doing things. So, like, let's say you want to check your temperatures, because that's an important thing that you should probably do while it's doing the test, because you basically don't want to go, if you start reaching 85 degrees Celsius, then you need better cooling. So here, let's go over to here. I already did this. You can see I got a temperature conversion for all the Fahrenheit people out there like me. So 85 degrees Celsius is 185 Fahrenheit, and that's, I think your Pi starts underclocking itself, or fucking turns itself off or something once it reaches this temperature. I believe at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, it starts like destroying your Raspberry Pi and blowing it up or whatever. So you're gonna want to keep, you know, every once in a while, check it out. You can open up another PuTTY instance, and like I did here, and you're going to put in this command right here, vcgencmd space measure underscore temp. Hit enter, and that'll read out your current temperature. So mine's running pretty cool. It's been running this test for a while, actually. I have my Pi. I have two Pis. My first Pi has been running this test for a long ass time. So it's been going for like, let's see here. I think I started at. It's been going for almost 4 hours already. It's almost done. But so far my temperatures are very stable. You can see I've done periodic testing of the temperature, and the highest I actually got was when I first started the test. I was at 49 degrees Celsius, 120 Fahrenheit, and as the test progressed, you know, it changed a little bit. I got 43, 46, 45, 48, and right now I'm down to 41. So if you come over here, let's enter in 41. I mean, 105 degrees Fahrenheit. That's nothing. Even at my highest temperature, which was 49, 120. That's nothing. So my Pi is running good, but I do have I have some serious heat sinks on it. I don't have those wimpy little heat sinks that you can buy off of eBay for $1. I actually used an old heat sink off of older computer. I cut it with a Dremel to actually fit over the chip properly. I did that for the CPU, GPU, and the RAM. And I also used, what did I use? Arctic Silver thermal paste, and I held the heat sinks down with just a tiny dab of like a JB Weld type thing, just a tiny dab, just like right on the sides, like right on two sides of each heatsink. I just put a tiny dab. If you've seen my video, can a penny keep a Raspberry Pi cool? I did the same thing with the penny, to like hold the penny down, and it was real easy to get the penny off if once I wanted to, because a penny isn't going to cut it if you're going to be overclocking. But it does work if you're just going to stay at stock settings. Anyways, if you just use a tiny bit, it doesn't do any damage to the board. Also, you know, you can kind of see safer areas to put that on the board when you putting the heatsink on. You can see some areas have no like traces or anything, so obviously that would be a better spot to do it, just in case something happened. But I've tried out a few different heat sinks and been using the just a tiny dab, just enough to hold it in place, and removing the heat sinks is no problem. It doesn't do anything to the board. So anyways, I'm going to be back when the test is done. Let me see here. Let me switch over to my other Pi and see how far along we are. Oh, there we are, right there. This is my other Pi that's also running the test, and it's still going. Reading number 5 for, like I said, 3.5 hours into this. And just to show that I am running at the speed I said I am, come down here, enter that in. You can see that it is at 1500 megahertz. So I'll be back when this finishes, and also before I do that, you'll see up here where my Pi is. If you're like freaking out because the test doesn't look like it's doing anything, or you think maybe your Pi froze up or something, you can just go to your Pi, whatever you have controller hooked up to it, keyboard or whatever you're using, and you can scroll through. You see your Pi isn't frozen up or anything. Look at your games. I wouldn't play a game or anything while the test is going, but just so you know that your Pi isn't frozen, you can do that. Alright, so I think that's it. Yeah, I'll be back when this is finished, and we'll see if my my Pi survived the stress test, and so far it's looking really good. I feel like I'm going to pull it off, and if it actually does survive this stress test, I am going to bump it up, and I'm curious to see if I can get 1600 megahertz out of this, and if I can, I will post a video on that, because that would be something. That would be a crazy overclock on the Raspberry Pi, and I think I can do it with the cooling that I have. Actually, before I take off here, let me just show you. Turn on my flashlight here. It's dark. Let me just show you the heat sinks that I have on my Pi that is overclocked to 1500. So that's my Pi. That's overclocked to 1500. You can see the heat sinks are pretty large. They're probably I don't know, over an inch, slightly over an inch high, but they were cut to fit over the chips properly. You know, there's not like I've seen some people put like ginormous heat sinks on their on their pies, and it's like I think it's obviously it's totally unnecessary. You don't need ginormous heat sink that's 5 times bigger than the chip you're putting it on. It's probably best just to have the heatsink basically the size of the chip. And as you can see, mine has been running this stress test now for freaking 3.5 hours, and I'm sitting pretty at what was it, 105 degrees, 102 degrees or something Fahrenheit. So I'm doing good. Plus I have the fan. The fan definitely helps. I had to mount the fan on the top of the case because my heat sinks were so tall, but it still looks cool. Alright, so I'll be back when this test is over, and we'll see what happened. Okay, it's roughly 9 hours later, and I'm back, and the shit finally finished. So the good news is I made it through the stress test, and no crashes. I got the thumbs up, so that means that my Pi is definitely running stable at the crazy overclock setting here. The what do they call it? The no fucks given overclock. Warning: this will not work on 99% of the Pi3s out in the wild. Some people have gotten lucky enough to get a Pi with the ability to overclock this high. So I guess I'm one of the lucky people that got one of those Pis. And seeing as I made it through this stress test, I'm going to go ahead and later on I'm going to try bumping it up a little bit more, just the arm frequency, just to see if it'll go even higher. So if I have any success in that, then I'll I'll let you guys know. But let's go over real quick what the script actually did and why it took so freaking long. Okay, so here's where we started. So it's reading, and depending on the size of your card, I mean, it could take longer or it could take less time. I have a 64 gigabyte card, so it was doing the whole 64 gigabytes, and it took, for each reading, it took 3,000, basically roughly 3,150 seconds, which is roughly about 50 minutes. So, and it does this 10 times. So you multiply that by 10. I mean, you're talking almost 10 hours there. I mean, it's been, let's see, when did I start this? I started this at 9. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 9 hours and 20 minutes. So after it does all the reading, Then it moves on to writing, and it only writes, looks like it's writing 537 megabytes, and that roughly takes about a minute. So it does that 10 times, and then it tells you all this stuff, all that stuff, and then at the end it says not crashed yet, probably stable. So I mean 10 hours of this, I'm thinking it's stable. So let's check out the script here. I mean, if you have a larger card, say you have a 128 gigabyte, I mean, it's going to take double the time. So I was looking over the script, and if I were you and you have a larger card, you can decrease the number of times it actually does the reading. So looks like if you change this 10 here to like maybe 5, it would only do 5, so that would cut your time basically in half. And then the writes, I would just leave that alone, because that only takes each write only takes basically a minute. So that's something to think about if you have a larger card. Even if you don't, even if you have a same size as me, a 64 gigabyte, and you don't want to wait freaking 10 hours or 9 hours, whatever it was, you can cut the time in half. So that's it. And like I said, I'm going to try to bump this up a little bit more, because I was running the temperature, throughout this thing. Every like hour or so, I would check the temperature, and I was in the steady 40s the whole way through. I mean, the highest I reached was when I first started the test. When I first logged into my Pi, I was at 49 degrees Celsius, and then the highest I got throughout the test was right here at 48.3 degrees Celsius. So yeah, I was in the low to mid 40s the whole way through. So I know my cooling is good, and definitely not going to overheat. My power supply is obviously good, because I even have over voltage 3. So you got to have a decent power supply, if you're going to be doing over voltage. So I will put this site here in the description. I'll also throw some of the commands that I use for like to check your CPU temperature and check your current CPU speed. I'll throw some of that in this description as well. So that's it for this video. Hope you found it somewhat useful, and thanks for watching. Alright, so I'm back. I tried overclocking my CPU even more on the Pi. I tried to go 1600 first, and it just my Raspberry Pi booted up, but it would default to 600 megahertz. So then I tried going down to 1550, and that did the same thing. It defaulted to 600 megahertz. So I guess 1500 is the max. I didn't know that, so I figured I would try. But just in case anybody was curious, yeah, 1500 megahertz seems to be the max on the Raspberry Pi 3. So that's a bummer. I was all psyched. I was like, I'm gonna go higher, man. I'm gonna keep going until it blows up. But I guess it won't let you do that. Anyways, so that's it for this video. Definitely this time, that's it. And thanks for watching.